sure you'd agree going to the Salisbury Zoo is certainly an enjoyable experience, looking at all the animals, and it's especially fun for the kids.
And for the adults as well. But there's a great deal of work that goes into caring for the animals and their exhibit behind the scenes. To find out what it all entails, we sent Brian Spiros to the zoo, and that's where he is this afternoon. Brian?
Well, Lisa and Jimmy, the zookeepers here at the Salisbury Zoo keep busy on a daily basis. They have to make the animals food, feed them, clean up after them, among many other things. So I got to do all of that, and I learned a lot in the process. What would a zoo be without the animals, and what would the animals be without the zookeepers?
There's a lot of work involved. There's the general stuff, the cleaning and the feeding in the morning. There's horticulture, groundskeeping, planting plants, building exhibits. I mean, the list just goes on and on.
Sherry Bartlett is a zookeeper at the Salisbury Zoo and works closely with the animals on a daily basis.
So I come in and I immediately go down and check all my animals and all the exhibits and let those out that get locked up at night. Make sure everything's okay and safe and doing well. Come back here, I get everybody's diet together, then I go out there and start my day cleaning.
Getting the food together consists of preparing anywhere from 15 to 20 meals. All right, Sherry, so we're in the kitchen here at the zoo. This is where you start your day every morning, making all the food for the animals. Tell me who I'm going to be making the food for this morning and what it contains.
Okay, you're going to be making a sloth diet, and it's lettuce, sweet potatoes, and carrots. It's all right there, so just chop it up and throw it in a bucket.
So just start cutting it all up?
Yep,
all
nice
right.
and small.
Sounds good.
The most stuff we deal with a lot are like apples, bananas, oranges, greens, from just romaine lettuce to spring mix, stuff like that. And then of course all the raw meat, fish, chicken, rats, mice.
After finishing the food for the sloths, it was on to the otter menu, which consisted of carrots and raw meat.
Grab it, squeeze it out, grab some. Oh, your hands are gonna get dirty.
And since otters spend a great deal of time in the water, fish are also a part of this meal.
You're gonna smell lovely today.
Oh God,
like
I can
otter.
already tell. Believe it or not, just like people, some of the animals can be picky eaters.
You know, there's a lot of animals that have preferences, like Chaska, the new bear that just came in. She really likes the omnivore pellet, which is like a feed. But she's kind of picky as to what other like apples and stuff she eats. She'll eat the grapes and the peanuts, but she's not so big on apples and pears and sweet potatoes.
With that said, it's time to serve breakfast. Our first stop, the otters.
So we're gonna go in, and what we have to do is shift them into this back area, this pen, so we can go in and clean and feed them and then let them back out.
Got it. Moving the otters into a separate area is as simple as 2 pulls.
There you go, guys.
Now the fun part, picking up the mess these guys have left behind.
And it's gonna get trickier because you see they've pooped all over this.
Oh God, you didn't make it easy for me, did you?
As a zookeeper, the poop is really important because it's how we can tell if animals are sick a lot of times. So we need to know what the normal poop looks like, the consistency, so we can look for anything irregular.
When it comes to feeding the otters, that carrot, meat, and fish dish I made gets scattered around. This is one of those times where it's okay to throw food. After that, we let the otters back in and off they went looking for their food.
It's kind of a little bit of an enrichment to bring out that animal's natural thing. You know, in the wild, they're not going to go out to a bowl of food. So we try to scatter that food around and make them find it and forage for it. Plus, it alleviates any competition.
Now it's time to do the same thing for the wallabies.
The best way to do this is to approach it kind of like a grid system. So, you know, walk the fence line and then just go up and down, all the way through the yard. Because they poop everywhere.
With the wallabies, it was a little harder to find their business since it was hidden in the grass. During it all, I couldn't help but feel like I was being watched. Needless to say, I kept going, even though the wallabies were probably wondering who I was and why I was there. But once I started scattering their food around, I was old news.
And the wallabies, they won't fight like an otters will over food, but that's just because they kind of eat all day and they hunt around for food and browse. So we scatter it around so that they can just do that, just like they would in the wild.
And then just dump all this in?
Yep.
Then it was off to one of the first areas people see when visiting the zoo, the flamingos. And getting into their exhibit can be kinda tricky, to say the least.
We have the macaws, which you have to be careful because they're not being aggressive towards us. They just like to try to bite us because it's fun for them. It's fun for them to try to get us.
Hi, flamingos. I don't think the flamingos really like me.
One of the things I learned while tending to the flamingos is that their food is what gives them that bright pink color.
They eat like an algae and a bacteria and some diatoms that produces that pink color. If you take a flamingo feather and you keep it for years and years and years, it'll turn white because that algae that they're eating keeps them pink.
I also got to meet the 4 sloths that call the zoo home. They were just laying around, sleeping, until I gave them each a piece of sweet potato.
There she is.
Yeah,
Hi.
she's like, hey.
If there's one thing I'm learning, every animal's droppings look different. At times, Sherry had to point out what it looked like.
I am getting an education in animal feces today.
It's kind of like blueberries.
Yes, only you don't want to eat them.
And the sloths aren't the only ones in this exhibit.
We also have the curacao in there, and his name's Elvis. He's kind of a keeper favorite, I think. He's my favorite.
Hi, Elvis. There you go. It's all yours.
We try to simulate that these guys would live together, or do live together in South America with the wild ones. So we try to put these guys in the same similar, it's enriching in itself to have all these species in there and them living together like they would.
When all was said and done, 4 exhibits were cleaned and all the animals were fed. Working at the zoo, I realized there's always something that needs to be done.
You can never say you can't find anything to do when you work at a zoo.
As for Sherry's favorite part of the job,
I mean, it's really fun. You get to know them. They all have their unique personalities. They all act a certain way when you're around. So that's the fun part. The animals are the fun part.
Animals certainly are the fun part. I should tell you guys that the flamingos, I'm bonding with them. They're starting to come a little closer to me now, so I think they like me. The animals you saw Sherry and I just taking care of are only a few of the animals that she tends to on a daily basis. And with that said, I would also like to thank Sherry and everyone else here at the Salisbury Zoo for being very patient with me and letting me get that behind-the-scenes look. And who knows, maybe my future, I could be a zookeeper. With that said, we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
You got all the poo down, so you're half the battle's right there.
I'm halfway there.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, still ahead on Delmarva Life, she mixes wine with comedy. That's why she's known as the stand-up sommelier. Up next, Lori Forster takes the Delmarva Life stage ahead of her big show in Salisbury later this week.
And while we're talking wine, Dr. Oz says have a drink, especially if it's red. He says it has a certain nutrients that's packed with health benefits.
Give a cheer for resveratrol. Rich in antioxidants, it improves skin, artery, and heart health, and it boosts immunity. Red wine has tons of resveratrol since grape skin and seeds are a primary source. So drink red wine in moderate amounts, maybe a glass for women and 2 glasses for men per day max. And if you don't drink, get other similar anti-aging benefits from dark chocolate or blueberries.